Hey folks, Flo here with Pierre Ruel here at Scaling Up 2023. He's from Boeing, Canada. Maybe you just want to say a couple of words to introduce yourself.
Well, merci Florent. It's a pleasure to be with you here. And this is the first year that Boeing Canada attends the Scaling Up conference. But oh my God, what a revelation. Fantastic.
Tell us more.
Fantastic crowd, people from everywhere around the planet. There was a lady next to me from Japan. There's people from Spain, Finland. Wow. And you know, our motto at Boeing on sustainable aviation is sustainable aerospace together. So this is so nice to see people getting together, including industry, big oil, technology. This is an amazing forum.
Wow, well that's great to hear. That's great to hear. So let me start with a challenging question. So what is the state of the global aviation industry from a bioeconomy point of view?
Wow, that's a good question. So I think you're aware that in order to decarbonize aviation by 2050, sustainable aviation fuel, which is part of renewable fuels, is going to have a huge part to play. So there are more pillars to sustainable aviation, like fleet renewal, advanced technology, and operational efficiency. But the renewable fuel aspect, I would say, of all of the four pillars, is the central pillar.
Okay.
And this is all done through bioeconomy, scaling up the production of renewable fuels. So and this is how it ties in. Yeah.
Okay. And is that basically the only way the aviation industry can continue to grow and do so sustainably? Because you shared some numbers in your presentation that looked like, you know, the aviation industry is only going to grow as the world, you know, the population grows and the people fly more and want to. I mean,
so it's not the only way, but it's the way it's like drop-in ready right now. Right now, at this very moment, you can take a blend of fuel that would be 50% renewable, 50% fossil fuel, jet fuel, and you can put that in an airplane as we speak. Okay. You can put that in 737, 787. The issue is not having the fuel available right now. So this is why the scaling up is very important. But back to aviation, yes, you mentioned the growth of aviation in the next, between now and 2042. It's amazing. 42,000 new airplanes would be built. And some of them are replacement, but some of it is pure growth. Half of it is pure growth. And why? Well, people want to connect, right? This aviation is about connecting, exploring, getting people together. So it's something that we appreciate right now in 2023, and we need to be able to continue in the future.
Right. Okay, so sustainable aviation fuels is clearly the future. Yeah. SAF, it's a key priority. Can you give us some numbers, some projections for the growth of that sort of sub-segment in the coming years?
Okay, so if you look at pre-pandemic numbers, 2019, I think in Canada we used 9 billion liters of jet fuel. Okay, none of this was renewable. It was all fossil fuel. Now, fast forward to say 2025, with the growth in the aviation, we'll be looking at about just over 10 billion liters of fuel, between 10 and 11 billion of fuel for the jet fuel here in Canada. So this is growing, and ideally by 2030, we want to be able to get to 10% of that, right? So 10% is quite a number. It's a huge part of in volume, it's pretty big. We're not there yet. We need to get there. We need to get together, including the right policies from the government and getting investors together in order to scale up.
And that was one of my next questions, which is what opportunities exist for collaboration with the aviation industry, with other industries? You mentioned some of them that are here. Yeah. What are the ones that you think are the most promising, perhaps?
I think innovation is extremely important. Research and development, innovation. You know, I read an article in The Economist the other day. It talked about the International Energy Agency, IEA. And 2 years ago, they concluded 2 years ago that only 50% of the technologies were there in order to get to net zero by 2050. The other 50% were non-existent yet. So they did the same survey this year, and they found now there's only 30%, 35% that's not there. Okay. So it's an amazing progression, 15% in 2 years. So instead of having half the solutions missing. Now we have only a third of the solution. Yeah, I'm talking about technology. Yeah.
Okay, so for people to understand, what are the most obvious partner sectors, let's say, for the aviation industry? Just for anyone who doesn't necessarily know the aviation industry or even the bioeconomy, I mean, I would imagine maybe the oil and gas industry, maybe, like you said, technology industry, IT industry. Could you maybe tell us which of those are correct? Or?
Well, actually, I'll name another one. I think it's all about feedstock. Mostly about feedstock.
Okay.
Yeah, well, not all about feedstock, but it starts with feedstock.
Yeah.
Start with feedstock. And if you look at Canada, we are blessed, of course, as a country with all of the natural resources that we have. But not every part of Canada is the same as the other. So in the prairies, the feedstock that you would use for sustainable aviation fuel will likely differ from the feedstock that you would find in Atlantic Canada or British Columbia.
Because it's dependent on the industries that are there, right? And
the natural resources that the ground has to offer.
Exactly.
And what is it we can transform? Because again, it's about scaling up. So you need huge quantities of whatever feedstock that you pick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And final thoughts, I mean, anything that gets you most excited about working for the aviation industry in a time when there are a lot of pressures, right? There are a lot of challenges and it can be a bit daunting. I mean, what keeps you motivated?
It's funny, aviation has gone through big steps in the past. For example, going from piston engines to jet engines, that our parents experienced they traveled for the first times in those jet engines in the 50s and 60s. And now I think the next revolution is sustainable aviation. That's the one that you and I will be able to experience. And one day we'll say, yeah, we made it. We got it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Pierre.
Merci, Florent.
Pleasure to speak with you. Enchanté.